Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to review Jason and the Argonauts from the 60s. So this movie is easily available on YouTube and Tubi. That's why I kind of went on to check this one out. Plus, also, I've been watching in my multitasks bit of times. Going on and watching gameplay of God of War because I'm gearing up for a show to eventually drop sometime next year somewhere. But so also, like, while watching this movie, I couldn't help but think of like Elder Scrolls Skyrim, or just kind of a number of just kind of Greek mythology movies, like, of course, Clash of Titans, either the original or remake. Even Percy Jackson, those kind of lightning thief films where we'd go on and have Percy, I think, because there's so many different Greek mythology movies that eventually I get them confused. I hope this is the right one. Percy goes on to Mount Olympus and speaks with his father, and there's this kind of awkward interaction between the two of them. And Percy's like, "Well, yeah, like, I know that we've never met, but my mother has kind of told me a little bit things here and there about you, but yeah, like, this is going to be kind of awkward between the two of us because, yeah, like, we've never really met." So Jason and the Argonauts. This film is to be a movie that is to basically be side quest the film. They give you a character that has this goal, but then by the end of the film, they never deliver upon it. They basically just have Jason face off against all of these big, huge, massive, monsterish, or skeleton, or uh, or any kind of ways of just being almost similar to uh, Geralt, the Witcher, where Jason and his men on his ship are going on to face off against these harpies, or this multi-headed Hydra lizard thing, or these skeletons that come from the teeth of the Hydra, and so on and so forth. There's so many just uh, things to be put into Jason and his men's way to or to by the end of the film have us realize that the runtime of this film is to tell us that this movie is not going to have enough time to get to the point where Jason is to re-seek back his throne against a guy named Polias that he meets in the beginning of this film, and Jason doesn't even know it's him. And so Polias kind of puts in place, "Hey, yeah, son, you go on and you go and you help Jason, and Jason's main goal is to go after this golden fleece, and if he gets close enough to it, go on and just get it before he does, and that'll kind of stop him from getting back to me." But so with this movie, like, it very much reminds me of like old fashioned video games. Like, I had gone on to just rewatch, or I just watched like Jacksepticeye playing the very first God of War game, and could not help but make a lot of comparisons to both this movie and that game. Um, but also, yeah, like, there's a lot of just Greek mythology, like Clash of Titans and a number of other projects to want to compare this to. Uh, so we'd also come to find that in Jason and the Argonauts, we also have Hercules in this movie. Not the same normal way of which that we're seeing Hercules in this film, which is kind of strange. Yeah, we're seeing him as, like, yeah, Hercules is the strongest of them. Yeah, that's clear. But also, we're kind of seeing Hercules as a thief in this movie, which is strange. So Hercules goes on with a guy named Hylas, who is to be kind of the smarter guy of the group. And Jason is to go on and tell everybody, "Hey, yeah, don't take anything with you but something to drink and something to eat. Anything beyond that, do not steal, because again, Hera is to go on and to have told Jason that. So Hylas and Hercules go off and they see these jewels and they see this javelin looking thing, and they're like, yeah, how about we just steal this stuff, because if anything, no one's really gonna care, right? That we take these. And Hylas is like, well, I don't know. Jason told us that we shouldn't take anything. So they take these items, they run away with it, and we come to find this big, huge, massive statue of Talos that goes on it and chases after. Well, chases after him is kind of a loose. He strategically figures out a way to get to them in his slowest molasses of way, which I think really goes on and gets to the like real reason for why this movie at some certain points is kind of slow, um, with what it's trying to accomplish, because they're kind of dealing with a mixture of claymation as well as also like real things happening. So I'm sure, really, with everything that they are trying to accomplish in this said film, which is a lot. Yeah, at some point probably the money ran out, or just like they were like to, excuse me. Eventually, they just kind of gave up on the film, and were to just be like, well, hey, we'll just leave all the Playa stuff for a possible sequel if there was ever going to be that, because they probably felt like this movie accomplished enough. So for this movie, I would go on and I would say for this film that Jason and the Argonauts, I'll say grading wise, I think it probably is to depend on your enjoyment of like of nostalgia and like old fashioned like NES games. Like if you like a kind of a simplistic movie that is to just be a thing that kind of gives you some visual eye candy, and has a simple enough story, then you'll probably go on and you'll probably enjoy Jason and the Argonauts. I would go on and I would say that this movie, uh, I'll give it an okay. Like I was in between kind of fine and okay. So yeah, either way, I'm giving this movie a thumbs up. Uh, Again, like it's kind of the ripping of the arm by the end of the film, where you realize, wait a minute, isn't Jason going after Plius and getting back his what it feels rightfully his to be the heir of this throne, and chasing after Plius to retain this crown, and to come to find out that Zeus is just walk everything back to just like, yeah, we're gonna go on and just reset the board and just call it a day, and Harry, yeah, you had gone on and helped this guy out several times. Good for you, like tra la la. So so yeah, so with that said, uh, there's a little bit more of details that I probably will go into when we do break down fully this movie. As far as future possible projects, I am kind of getting more interested after watching a lot of God of War stuff and realizing that God of War will eventually be a show at some point in the near future. Uh, Maybe I'll go on and I'll get into more of these kind of projects like the Henry Cavill Immortals, or Clash of Titans, or just any number of other kind of like Xenas or Herculeses, or stuff that eventually will be projects that people will connect more to. Will be a thing I may hope to cover in the future, but also there's still a lot of things that I have on my list of things to just kind of check off. Uh, if anything, let me know in the comments below what is be your favorite of kind of Greek mythology, or I'm kind of tiptoeing my way into possibly going on and covering maybe some more even religious kind of things in this like I did Dogma at some point. Um, Maybe there may go on and maybe some projects that may go on and interest people in that kind of realm of things. I don't know. Like I'm just trying to be open minded and trying to hopefully catch them all or cover them all. But anyways, uh, but I also have a number of sequels and things to cover on this project. Like at least it's good that I have so many things to just kind of keep myself busy with as far as future projects is concerned. Even though there's also a lot of times where I'm just kind of like, yeah, I kind of went with this one at the last minute, or I kind of went and took some bit of time to look into this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, Jason the Argonauts, that one looks like the one that stands out. Even though I probably could have gone on and done other things that probably would have made a little bit more impact. This one looked like fun, so I wanted to finally just kind of check this one off my list of projects. So a bit of fun. So right now, I'm just kind of dealing with kind of like a it's either like an injury or a sickness. I have no idea. Didn't go to the doctor for it or anything. I don't know, like my chest. Like it's one of those where like I kind of just I don't really kind of just sit very properly. Like I kind of really go on. I kind of hunch my chest a little bit over a little bit too much. So eventually I just start to realize that my whole chest just got really sore, and it's just kind of affecting uh, to where I'm just kind of like bleh, like I'm just every day is a little bit more challenging to do everything. Um, so that's great. That's wonderful. Uh, at some point, I hope to go on and be able to get past this. If anything, like I do want to try to at least do some cardio because I'm like, yeah, I think workouts are completely right now. Man, have I just hooked my way into every possible like injury, illness, like the never ending, just like I've pushed myself too far, or like I've just like, I'm really starting to really just be like, man, like I really need to uh, be better about getting healthier. I don't know. I thought I was healthy, but god dang, I guess I'm just not really there, or what I thought I was there. Um, so this is freaking great. Uh, but anyways, at least I'm at a healthier weight than what I was technically. Uh, I'm still struggling, but anyways, uh, yeah. So if anything, also like while I'm doing this review, definitely it's kind of a labor of even doing that. Um, but anyways, I'm doing these because one, I really continue to need to because the channel isn't doing well. Um, I can't really take time off. I can't take time away from any of this. Um, but oh well, it's my bed. I'm gonna lie into it as best I can because I haven't really been sleeping lately either. Oh well, we'll figure it out. Anyways, so I guess the I guess best wishes for me to go on and try to come back from all this. So with that said, let's get into this movie. Get into spoilers. So let me know in the comments below any movies and shows you may want to go on and have me check out. I hope that it will go on and find something really good in the future. But anyways, I think it's about that time to say that it is spoil time, spoiler time. It's about that time to get spoiled this movie. Let's get into it. So we start off the very beginning of this film with a priest who's discovered as Hermes in a later part of this film, talking to Pelias. So this priest is to go on and mention that he's spoken to the gods and he's telling Pelias his future. And so Pelias is going after this king, Aristo, for this crown. But Hermes is kind of telling Pelias here, it's like, well, yeah, if you do go after this crown, you'll come to find that the children of Aristo will come after you and try to claim the crown. So Pelias is like, well, okay then. Well, if I'm going to go on and if I'm going to come after this crown anyways, I'll just eliminate all the children and kind of just wash my hands of all that. And it's like, well, I guess that is a technical strategy. So Pelias goes on and comes to the castle. We start to see um, a woman that is actually Jason's mother. Uh, Briseis. It's a strange name. And every one of these will have to go on and be a name that I'll probably butcher or ill pronounce, because of course I will. So Briseis, Briseis. Anyways, so uh, so Briseis is running around with this child, and we also see like another like armored man who's also running around with a child, but I'm not quite sure what exactly that connection was with anything. So we have Briseis, and she makes her way to the statue of Hera, and she prays for protection of her child. So Pelias comes and tries to figure out who this woman is praying to this statue is. And once he does go on and find out that this is the mother of of Aristo's children, Pelias whips out his sword and slices her down. I would go on to probably see like a good number of Hercules movies, kind of take a lot of these ideas probably from this movie. Because I feel like a lot of these Hercules projects are very similar to try to steal ideas from this. I probably should have mentioned that somewhere, but I just didn't have time to think of that. But anyways, so after Pelias blades down Jason's mother, here's where he goes on and he starts speaking to Hera, who is to actually be physically there. Like a lot of other times, we'd find that Hera is to just be a statue that talks to Jason and also she is to be in Mount Olympus with all the other gods speaking to him. And so Hera goes on to mention that Pelias is too late, that Jason will have gotten away, and if anything, all of what Pelias is doing is kind of like a moot point. But also, Hera is to warn Pelias that he will not go after Jason, because if Pelias goes after Jason, it'll be kind of like defying the gods. So, if anything, Pelias cannot go on and touch Jason. Someone else has to go on and kind of do Jason in. If that does happen, then Pelias is to probably be saved then. So so Hera goes back to Zeus, and so Zeus is going on and asking Hera, uh, what has she just gone on and done? Like made her way to this temple and spoken to Pelias and kind of reconfirming things, and so they talk about how like Pelias is to have won the throne, uh, but if anything, there's kind of contention there. So as well as also speaking of Jason's escape, that's a whole contention thing. So um so Hera was to have been upset with Pelias sorting down uh Jason's mother, and Hera wants to go on and help Jason because that seems to be the chess move that she wants to go on and she wants to do. So Zeus is like, okay, well, I'll go on and I'll grant you being able to get your wish of wanting to help out Jason. But the thing is, I'll only give you 5 times the ability to help him, and that's all. So Hela goes on and mentions that it'll take Jason 20 years to become a man, or a man enough to face off against Pelias. And if anything, strangely, we all of a sudden have then Hera look down and 20 years of time has passed. Kind of convenient for storytelling. So, Hera is to go on and at some point, tell Pelias that the man who will go on and kill him will be the man with one sandal. And as Jason goes on to meet with Pelias for the very first time, we'll see that whole thing come to truth. Because what will happen here, we'll have Pelias on horseback, that his horse ends up getting scared by Hera, and Pelias ends up falling into the water and he starts drowning, and Jason dives into the water and starts swimming after him, drags Pelias back out of the water, and we have Hera that's kind of just like in a shadowy figure. So Pelias meets with Jason, looks down at his feet, and realizes that there's only one sandal there. Pelias tells Jason that he owes him his life, and Jason's like, well, I was kind of nearby anyways. So Pelias is like, well, hey, like, what was your uh, what was your road trip for? Like, what were you doing? And Jason's like, well, I was making my way to the palace of the king. It's like, oh, okay. So Pelias is like, well, like if anything, we're probably both going to the same place. So if anything, like I'll guide you there. So as well as also Pelias is like, yeah, I'll bring you to my camp. I'll give you a big belly of food and all kinds of like this guy's gonna take care of him, even though it's like, I know there's something awful about you. So plus also there's nothing that Pelias can do that can hurt Jason anyways because he can't. So Plius and Jason make their way to the camp, and so Jason is making claims about returning to claim his kingdom, and he's been waiting 20 years for this. And in the background, we see Plius' son, and we see Hermes that is just kind of overhearing all of this. And so as Pelias and Jason are kind of talking here, it's like, well, if anything, you kind of need to think this through. That like if you're gonna go on, you're gonna make to a kingdom. Like you're probably gonna need to learn how to fight. You're probably gonna need to be in a group that you're gonna lead. And if anything, uh, let me pause here for a second. So after Jason goes on and on about fighting tyranny and trying to do its best for his kingdom, blah blah blah. So Pelias is to go on like, you know what, Jason, I'll be your advisor on this. Like, you know, if you just go on and you just chase after the golden fleece, you'll be able to go on and and have your prize. So so basically like sending this guy on kind of a fetch mission, like we'd go on to have Hercules that does like the whole like uh 12 laborers and stuff like that. So like everybody of like Greek mythology has always kind of had these kind of just like fetch mission kind of things going on. So Pelias is to even offer up some of his men for Jason, and Jason has something else in mind. So Jason walks off, and we have Arcostus, who is actually Pelias's son, is telling him, it's like why are you letting him live? Like he's gonna come after you. And Pelias tells his son Arcostus, he's like, well, like the gods have told me that I can't kill him. So if anything, like I'm gonna send you along with him. So for whatever reason, if he doesn't fail on his mission, that's why you're going to be there, and you're going to be the one that does him in. So Arcostus goes along, and Hermes is kind of off in the distance, kind of just hearing all this. So Jason meets up with the priest or Hermes, and the priest is to ask Jason's like, "Oh, so have you come here to pray to the gods?" And so Hermes goes on to start talking about statues that are around them, and one of the statues ends up coincidentally being a statue of Hermes, and they bring it up. They start talking about it, and so Jason doesn't exactly know how to get to the fleece, where to look for it. And so Hermes is say it's like, well, no one can really exactly tell you where the actual fleece is, but if anything, like if you ask the gods, they can give you an answer. So Hermes is to say it's like, well, Jason, you need to go on and you need to believe in the gods, and they will answer you. And Jason's like, yeah, about that. I don't really believe in the gods, so if anything, I don't think that they'll go on and they'll answer me. So Hermes has to go on and now convince Jason that they exist. So eventually we'll have Jason that prays to gods like Hera for assistance, and is to, of course, have the gods kind of be on his side. So Jason and Hermes are positioned to just stand in a place, and Hermes, or the priest, ends up turning into Hermes and then becomes giant sized, and all of a sudden Jason disappears from his location in a puff of smoke, and now we're at Mount Olympus. Hera and Zeus have this whole board and chess thing all put together, and so Zeus is to go on and say about how Hera's a little bit of a cheat in this situation of the games that they play, that it seems that she's always a cheat. Well, if anything, yeah, I'm sure she's to probably go on and guide Jason, even in this movie, a little bit too much. But anything. Uh, so Hermes appears, and then so does Jason in Hermes' hand. So as Jason goes on and speaks with the gods, like Zeus is like, oh, so you're gonna come in here and you're gonna want me to give you a ship, and you're gonna want me to give you men, and you're gonna want me to just kind of really help you on everything. And Jason is like, no. Like, if anything, I have my own way of getting my own ship and my own men. And Zeus is like, really? Like, everybody come in here. Like, over here, this guy. Like, this guy doesn't want my help. What a weird, strange reason for him to even be here. So, because Jason is going to come up with his own plan through the heart of men to get a number of people that are to be strong, and he's going to put this whole, like, games together and get these men to all kind of, I guess, through camaraderie, help Jason out. So so Hera explains who she is and explains that she will go on the voyage with Jason, and she has a limited number of times of helping him, explaining that so that way at least Jason is to know. So story wise, it makes sense that the two of them know that Hera will be able to help him, but also for a limited number of times. So so here is where Jason asks where exactly the Golden Fleece is to be located, and I think he does in a way of which that has two questions, and Hera's like, "Well, I'll only answer one of them now," and so she said it's located in the land of uh, the College. College. The name I'm sure will be differently pronounced uh, than when like we even have King uh, King 80s that I think is to be the king we see later in the film here. The guy that's to be the king of that era or area. Uh, anyways, so we so after Jason goes on and gets this information, uh, Zeus goes on and tells Jason about like, well, hey, you have to be really strong to get to the edge of the world to try to get this golden fleece, and here's where Jason's like, well, yeah, I'll go on and I'll find the strongest of men, and that'll help me out. So we then cut to a number of men that Jason recruits here in these games. I think the first thing that we see is like a kind of a form of like amateur, almost amateur like wrestling, and we have Polydeuces, who really isn't brought up until like the very later half of the film, where he's fighting against these skeleton like people, and eventually he gets killed in the battle. So if anything, like I probably won't have to go on and rattle all that off. Um, Plus, I probably won't remember who this guy really is. Uh, we see a Castus, of course, the guy who was Plius's son that had to still go on and earn his place athletically to get into this. We have uh, Phalaris of Athens that is to go on and kind of bow and arrow his way, and then we have Euphius or Euphemius that is to go on and kind of swim his way, and then we get to the point of Hercules. Hercules is to kind of just be strongmanning his way, like kind of muscling his way or wrestling his way. Uh, and then after Hercules is to be obtained, shortly thereafter that we have Hylas. Hylas is to go on and see how he's a very much more intelligent man. That if anything, like maybe it's to have him figure out a skill of outsmarting somebody rather than actually being athletic. So Hercules challenges Hylas to a challenge, and so there's this huge gap of water, and then there's this rock. They have to throw this disc as far past the rock as they can. So Hercules chucks it, and he hits this massive rock, where Hylas goes on, and he has the disc kind of bounce into the water and then continue way past Hercules and goes on and beats him in that fashion. So, not exactly the best showing for Hercules here. A guy that is obviously to be a son of a god. And I don't know, they just weirdly just want to make Hercules look bad in this film. It's strange. So, we have the gods that are all looking on at this competition. And so now all Jason needs is to figure out how to get a ship. So Jason is to go on and make his way to the ship that'll be named by the guy that made it, the Argos. So Jason finds this ship that has this sail that has a goat face on it. And so as Jason starts speaking to Argus, which a good chunk of the time we find that Argus is like shirtless in this movie, and I'm like, man, like when you kind of look at a lot of these like Ben Hur's and all these kind of projects, like you'd really see that sometimes they're going on and trying to make people look the best, but then also there's sometimes where it's just like, okay, like man, there's some burly dudes that come through these movies and projects and whatever. It's just kind of really interesting to see kind of like a wide barrage of who exactly they picked to have done these projects. Plus, also, uh, it's interesting to just kind of see um, like how they did movies at a certain point. Um, anyways, so Argos is to or find and tell Jason that this ship comes with a figurehead, which normally would be at the very front of the boat, but for some odd reason, they have this kind of statue-esque like figure that is actually in the back of the boat. And Jason's like, well, why would you have that there? Jason starts to look into the figurehead and realizes that it is to not only uh, look like Hera, but at some point Jason will come to find that the eyes will be kind of opening and closing, and here is where Jason will find out like, hey, yeah, like this is Hera, and she's gonna go on and speak to you through this statue of whenever you're gonna go on and need help during your sea voyage, because he'll go on, he'll need so. So Jason is fine with the figurehead and is like, all right, like we'll go on and we'll set sail tomorrow. So we start to see the men starting to row, and they start banging on all these drums. Honestly, you would think that a boat would probably try to go on and try to be like, specifically for this boat, they try to go on and have as many like food and drink resources as they can, or try to make this boat as light as possible. Throwing in a thing of drums exactly doesn't make this thing any lighter. But I guess it's going on and through rhythm pushing these guys to be able to row really well. Like I guess you can only for so long just be yelling out like row row in a rhythm. Um, so we would start to see the crew as days are to go on and start passing here. Here's where we see Argos with his shirt off. And people are starting to run out of resources. They're going on and they're realizing that, yeah, we only have like a couple of sips of water a day. And like, man, we're really starting to run out of things. So they realize that they need to get to a bit of land soon. And so Jason turns to Argo, and Argo is mentioned like, yeah, like all these guys, they're wimps, they're bickering, they're grumbling, and they're talking about blistered hands and all these kind of things. So Argo mentions a thing called brine, which is to be a thing that can kind of fix everybody's blisters and kind of bandage them up. So Jason's like, well, okay, get on that then. Like why didn't you say anything earlier? So as Argo leaves to get the brine, here's where Jason starts talking to Hera, and Jason's like, "Well, yeah, I know I was only supposed to like ask for your help a certain number of times. If anything, like you told me about uh Colchis, like the place where they're supposed to go on and make their way to get to the Golden Fleece." um and and so here is where Jason finds out that Pelias was the one he saved, which is funny. Because Hera breaks it to Jason that he could have killed Pelias all along. Because Hera will go on to explain, like, yeah, like the guy that you saved in the water, yeah, that was Pelias. You should have gone after him and killed him. And Jason's like, what? Like the guy I saved, like I could have drowned him and ended this whole thing. So So Hera will go on to explain that they will be reaching land soon, or by noon, and it'll be the Isle of the Bronze. Uh, this is an area that had been kind of set to where there was laboring of weapons and such things for Zeus. Hence why when we go on and we make our way to all these statues, there's a whole bunch of things like taluses and all these monuments and everything of these people. So but Hera is to call a person called Hephaestus, and see for Jason to not worry about this character because they have long since been dead. And if he is to go on to reach the Isles of the Bronze, uh, that these people should take nothing away from it besides drink and food, and that's it. So okay, so Jason goes on to re-explain that to the rest of the crew, and Hercules ends up kind of cracking wise about like, what if there's women there? Like, and Jason's like, Hercules, food and water. That's it. So, so Hercules is like, well, like I'll just kind of do whatever I want, and Jason's like, no, like you're not going to get that option. Like if anything, there's going to be Talos there, and he'll try to stop you if you try to do anything. If you try to mess around. So so the guys ask Jason where he'd gone on to find out about this whole island, and Jason explains that it's from Hera. So they continue on rowing here, and so they drop this big huge rock with this rope on it to be their anchor, and then they get this kind of little drawbridge to get to the island. So here's where Hercules and Hylas they go on their own little mission. So Hylas and Hercules they start looking for food, and and uh, they eventually stumble upon this kind of this tomb or this kind of shrine that has this statue here, and it's to be of uh, a little kind of monument that is to have the word Talos on it, and they're trying to figure out who Talos is. Like, is he one of the Titans? Like, who is it? Who is this guy? And so they're trying to remember what exactly Jason was talking about. Talos is, I guess, like kind of the sun has gotten to their heads, and so they don't remember. So, so Hylas goes on to take his staff and he pushes open this door, and Hercules grabs it and pushes it more open. So they make their way into this shrine-like room that has these massive pearls and this uh, gold javelin, which is actually just a bobby pin that's just gigantic, and so or a brooch pin, my bad. So Hercules says about how this javelin will be a useful weapon to him and that maybe she should keep it. And Hylas is like, no, man, I don't think we should keep any of this stuff because we should adhere to what Jason had said. Hylas goes on and takes this massive pearl and drops it back into where he took it from. And so Hylas is convincing Hercules that they should probably adhere to what Jason said. And if anything, by the end of this, we'll find that Hylas, all of this, and the mistake that he made will eventually go on and cost him his life. We'll find that out in the story here. Because at some point, Hylas will go on and find Argus, or find Argus, find Talos, and Talos will fall on Hylas as Hylas just kind of is kind of scared to the point where he's just kind of frozen in fear, and the statue falls on top of him, and Hercules, I guess, grief stricken with the disappearance of Hylos, is like, well, I'll go on and I'll look for Hylos, and like I don't care anymore about helping Jason and the Argonauts. Like I'm gonna go on, I'm gonna do my own mission of finding where Hylos is. Hera goes on to explain to Jason the Argonauts, yeah, Hylos is dead. Like, but if anything, let's not go on and let's not tell Hercules that, because Hercules is going to go on and he's going to do his own thing. In other words, they try to figure out a way to write off Hercules in this film, because if anything, if you had Hercules on your side, yeah, like it just kind of becomes like this should be the Hercules movie and not Jason and the Argonauts. Um, I guess if anything, that's probably the reason why they tried so hard to just kind of make Hercules into not so good of a guy here, because like, well, we they may have probably felt forced into writing Hercules in, probably in the story. So they're just like, well, if we're gonna write him in, like, he's not going to be a good guy, and they're gonna have to figure out a way to write him out of the story. So, so as Hercules and Hylos leave this shrine, as they exit out, we start to see the Talos statue starting to start to kind of move its hands and start to move parts of its body to come after Hercules and Hylos for the theft that they had gone on to make. So at some point, the at some point, Jason and the sailors make their way back to the ship, and Jason is asking, "Hey, where's Hercules at?" It's like, "Oh, he probably found a woman, or he probably found something, right? Like he probably won't come back anytime soon." So here's where all of a sudden they see the Talos statue, and they're like, "Oh my God, we need to get the heck out of here!" Like, so everybody's scrambling back onto the ship, and they're rowing as quickly as they possibly can. So the Talos statue is to not be as fast, obviously, as this ship, but it has a way of just outmaneuvering this ship. And so, what Talos does is he gets there ahead of time before the ship does, of this gap to be their only way for the ship to get through, because it's two things of rock and then there's water here. So there's two things of rock and then water. And so Talos just puts his feet in between the two rocks, and then it's to go on and grab the ship and just twist and turn the ship until people start falling out of it. And we see the Hera statue that ends up falling over. We see Jason grabbing on to the Hera statue and talk to Hera a little bit. Uh, Jason, of course, has no idea how to take Talos down. And Hera's like, ugh, like, I don't know if I should really go on and really help you this time. But if anything, the only thing that I can really tell you is go after Talos's feet. Like, look at his feet for a weakness. So, or his ankles, is what she says. So, as the rest of the men, now as their ship is to have been wrecked, realize that the only thing left for them to do is that they need to face off against Talos, because they need time to build a new ship to get the heck out of there. So, as Talos is ever coming near, Jason is telling his men, hey, like, you guys just try to be a distraction, and I'll figure out a way to take Talos down, because he knows the key to this. So Jason's men just start throwing bows and arrows and spears, because they're just like, this is all the weapons we have, Chuck. So the men are trying to distract him, and Jason is figuring out where he needs to kind of be. And Jason is kind of guiding his men. It's like, hey, watch the feet. Hey, watch uh try to figure out how to not get killed here and get squashed. So Jason sees on the very back of Talos's foot here, there is this circle and there's these two little notches. And so Jason realizes that he needs to run to the back of Talos's foot, take his spear that he has, and basically like treat this like you would kind of like a screwdriver in a way, or like a uh like if you were to go on and see on like a submarine, like there are some times where they have these doors where you have to like have this kind of like twist of this steering wheel and then the door opens. It's kind of the same thing here, where Jason is going on and using this spear with these two notches to try and twist this back of this heel off, or back of the ankle off. And eventually once he does that and is successful, there's all of a sudden going to be all this blood that starts rushing out from that foot uh, to, I guess, take down his Achilles heel or his funny bone. So, which is actually a really interesting way of about doing this, which I actually really did enjoy. Like, I thought that was kind of very clever and very unique here. I liked that whole, like, because this thing that Jason does with taking out Talos's foot kind of feels like Shadow of the Colossus, where you'd have to go on and you'd have to climb through the giant and figure out there's little weak points where the character would go on and would have to like stab into the giant a good number of times uh, for it to go on and to be able to kind of give itself up and just kind of crumble because of taking down all the weak pressure points. So after the blood is a spew from the Talos statue of all things, it falls over, and again we have a number of people that are all like running for their safety away from the statue falling, and Hylos is to just be stopping in fear and ends up getting crushed as this statue breaks apart in a number of different pieces. Like the arms and the head just come like just snapping off of this statue. So after Talos is to have been dismantled, we then have the rush of guys trying to figure out how to put another boat together, uh, or just try to get all the pieces from their prior boat, like just kind of scramble to get something together to make something salvageable. People are going on and they're asking about Hylos because they're not sure of his death. They're trying to go on and put Hera's statue back onto the boat. So they don't know what happened to Hylos. Or Hylos. So they're saying it's like, yeah, well, we searched for him, and so Hercules is like, well, like some people were saying, like, well, yeah, we saw him running, but we're not sure what really happened. So Hercules is to realize the bad that he has gone on to do here. So he is going on to tell the Argonauts that he's like, well, I'm staying here and I'm going to find Hylos. And, like, I don't care about you guys. I don't care about anybody. Like, this is what I'm doing. And they accept that. They're just like, okay, Hercules, like, you're going to go off and you're going to leave. after he goes on and leaves, people are just like, dude, like, wait a minute, like, you're getting rid of Hercules? Well, don't you know who he is? Like, no, like, don't you know that he's been like done by Kevin Sorbo and Kellen Lutz and Dwayne the Rock Johnson? Don't you know how important this character is? No, um, they go on and people start to complain on the boat because they're like, well, hey, like Hercules was like the strongest of us, so like you're just gonna let him go? And Jason's like, no, like we're gonna let him go. Like if anything, like he's gonna be a non-factor of the story. Like if anything, Hercules has his own thing to do. Like Jason goes on and is to ask Hera about all this, and Hera's like, no, like Hercules going on and leaving will be fine. Like the gods will have something other planned for Hercules. But also Hera is to explain to the group that Halos is dead, or that Hylos is dead, and here's where Hera starts to speak to a number of the crew because Jason will let everybody in on Hera going on and kind of speaking, which is kind of cool because I'm like, okay, like we're getting later and later to the film, so if anything, like Hera to be revealed to the rest of the crew that she can speak here through this statue is just kind of nice. It's kind of a nice bit of stuff here. So Hera goes on and is to guide Jason of where he's to head to next. So she's telling him to sail to uh, Faragia. I'm sure I butchered that name, and seek out uh, Phineas. And he's going to be a blind man that is going to be able to guide them to where to go to next. Does that make a whole lot of sense? Not really. But we always have a number of these kind of like, even in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like the Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie, there's like a blind man that Costner has in that film. We of course have even in like the black and white Frankenstein, we have the blind man that Frankenstein meets with. Like it's kind of cool that we always go on and like we bring even in like the handicapped in all these movies. That's the thing that I can like about this. But also it is kind of cool. Like even in Scroll, we of course had a blind man that was a guy. So if anything, actually, it's just kind of like a very common trope that we have blind people who lead people to where they need to go. So if anything, I'm gonna say that that's like a really cool idea that they've had that a staple in every single movie and show project. And I honestly wish that more we'd probably go on and we'd actually have like the handicapped of people. Like I don't want to call them that title because if anything, like everybody's just people, and kind of singling them out at that it feels wrong. Um, so yeah, so uh, yeah, let's push on here. So Jason, after getting his guide of where to go next, is like, okay, guys, set sail, let's go. So as we sail along here, we make our way to Phineas. So Phineas is to make his way to this table full of fruit and and grapes and such and bread. And as he goes on, he scarfs down on this. We all of a sudden have these harpies that fly in, because they're kind of like they're if you guys have gone on to see like the Van Helsing Hugh Jackman movie, very much same similar like women with like bat wings, kind of the same situation here with these harpies. Like these big huge massive bat wings. So like imagine like Batman from Batman Begins, but as a monstrous creature looking thing that is just the gender of female. So harpies start coming flying in and start attacking Phineas. And he's like batting them away with his stick because he obviously can't see. And so he's just trying to like try to get these things away. Every time he's to try to eat, they come after him. So Phineas ends up getting knocked down, and here out of the shadows is to inevitably go on and be Jason coming to Phineas's evade after it seems that Phineas is to start praying. And Phineas starts to pray out to Zeus, and he's like, well, yeah, I realize that I haven't sinned every day, and I've been punished every day, so please go on and help me. So also like Jason and the Argonauts will go on to find that Phineas will have this special ability from the gods, because there's a whole story about that that he goes on to explain. So, so Jason comes in and doesn't know what these creatures are, these harpies are, and so as Phineas gets up, he goes on and asks them to like, hey, grab on my arm, because I can't see yours. So Phineas was given a gift of a prophecy, but he somehow misused it, and he went blind in the process. So these harpies are to have been by the gods to be sent to Phineas. So, if anything, if Jason and the Argonauts, if they kill the harpies, that'll be defying the gods. So, if anything, they can't go on and they can't kill the harpies, but if anything, they have to figure out a tactic to have the harpies still exist to be around Phineas, but not to attack him anymore. So that way Phineas will want to go on and help these guys out. So they have to figure out a strategy. So and also kind of like Phineas is at a point where he's kind of like given up, where he's talked about having Zeus throw him a thunderbolt to have the earth swallow him, and like he's just kind of at a point of real true despair. So and it basically like Phineas like calling out that he just hates the gods, and like we start to see some thundering and some grumbling, and so all right, so Jason will claim that Phineas will become the master of the harpies, and so Phineas goes on late at night to get another meal, gets near the table, and is to start scarfing down food, and he gets his staff ready. We start to see that the harpies flying in. All of a sudden, we then see Jason and the Argonauts get this huge thing of netting because, of course, they're fishermen. So we'll start to see like netting as a weapon. Like at some point, like Jason will go on and will fight somebody, and he'll be using a netting and a thing of netting in this movie, which I think is actually really cool. Like I wish there's a lot more heroes or villain characters that actually used netting as a weapon. I know that netting is kind of a stupid thing to use nowadays, but uh, like I'd go on to watch stuff like Power Rangers Dino Fury, where the Pink Ranger, she goes on in the pilot, she has this like this netting gun that she blasts, and so like it's been used in like modern day television stuff. So I'm like, you know what, like netting could possibly be a sound thing that people could still use. If anything, I'm sure you probably now need like electrical netting or something like that to make it more flashy and cool looking. But, anyways, so they basically, with the size of this net, they pretty much like put a whole like drape around the area that Phineas is in because he's around all these like columns um, that come together in almost like a way that there's enough there that with this net over on top of all the columns, like it's almost like a rooftop. So so the netting falls under the harpies, and so Jason and the Argonauts get the netting to get closer and closer uh, to the harpies. And then Jason goes on and turns to them and it's like, hey, get some wood so you can make a cage for these harpies. So the next thing we see is this huge table full of food. And so Jason's like, all right, like, uh, here you are, you hungry fellow. Like, here's a big fish. Here's all this wine. Here's all these things. Um, like we've completed our part of the bargain. So hey, like you gotta kind of go on and fill your part. So so Phineas is like, oh, so you want to know the way to Colossus? And Phineas mentions that they have to go through the clashing rocks and they have to steer northwest and they'll reach it within the next 5 days. So after the guys go on and realize like, oh, like we're gonna have to go through there. And Phineas is like, well, yeah, like if you go and you have the protection of the gods, you'll be fine. And Jason's like, yeah, we aren't really gonna have the protection of the gods. If anything, we'll just let the gods kind of speak for themselves. And so Phineas is like, okay, really? Well, okay then. Well, Phineas goes on and says, like, well, hey, how about I at least give you payment for assisting me and I'll give you this necklace. Well, come to find that this necklace is to be this kind of weird uh like figurine kind of necklace. And we'll come to find that this necklace, I guess, is to call upon Triton, who is this big mermaid like character of massive size that kind of looks like, if you guys have ever gone to watch the movie Little Mermaid, he's kind of like the king of that movie where he has like the gray long hair and is to have the crown and is to have the like and is to kind of look like an Aquaman kind of character because Triton kind of the same kind of ballparking of similar things there. Anyways, so so now we cut to Jason getting back on the ship with the Argonauts, making their way uh, to this next bit of of area that has all these rocks start to slide down consistently. And these guys are starting to realize that they're in jeopardy here. And oh, when Jason faces off against Acostus, because eventually Jason and Acostus will have a fight at some point. That's where Jason goes on and whips out the net and starts fighting Acostus with the net. That's where I was talking about the whole net thing. So as the rocks continue to slide, there's the guy that's kind of like on top of the bucket that kind of is to be the high point of the ship. At some point, that guy will like fall off of his bucket and will fall into the water. I think is what happens here. So Acostus gets near Jason, and Jason is telling Acostus that there's no turning back now, and Jason is to look up at the gods, and Zeus is even saying that it's like, well, yeah, Jason's gone too far. If anything, we don't think that he's going to make it this time around. So Jason, in turn, is like, well, you know what? I think the gods really want to be entertained right now. It's kind of like the Russell Crowe Gladiator movie where, are you not entertained? Like, and he's like screaming at the people. He's very upset, and it's like, oh yeah, like I'm putting my life on the line for you people to just be loving this bloodshed, and like I'm killing myself basically trying to survive here. Like, are you guys entertained? But anyways, so the more that Jason is defiant to keep going, we have people telling Jason that this is a trap, that they should turn back, and Jason is arguing with them. He's like, no, we got to keep going. So Zeus and Hera are putting their chess puzzles together, and Zeus is like, yeah, they're trapped. Like, if anything, like, what's your next move, Hera? And Hera's like, well, yeah, I only have one move left, and she moves this statue near the ship. So Jason realizes that there's only one thing that he could do, and instead of having a medallion or a figure to worship, Jason goes on and takes this necklace and that he was just given by Phineas and throw it into the water. All of a sudden, here's where springs in Triton, and Triton goes on to take these rocks and he's like pushing them open, or he's uh, pushing them so it assists the ship to go through. So Jason and Argus are telling everybody in the ship, like, pull like your life depends on it, like break your backs doing it. So these guys are pulling, and so at some point we're seeing like Jason and Argos basically in Triton's armpit. That's how close things are. So they've made it past. Zeus and Hera are talking about like, well, yeah, like it just seems that Jason's new agenda is to figure out how to end the gods. Like he doesn't want to have any belief in us. Like I would go on to find in other like Clash of the Titans projects and stuff like that, where uh, they would get to points where everybody was to try to unbelieve in all of the gods, and that's what kind of destroyed Mount Olympus, was the disbelief of them, and also having supposedly gods to have been killing people. I think was like the worry that like gods were killing people. So if anything, people were to try to disbelieve in them, so that way they would all start to die or lob off, and get them into a much more weakened state. I think that was like Wrath of the Titans instead of Clash of the Titans. I think was that story. But anyways, so Zeus is to say like, well, yeah, I think he's gonna try and stop the gods, and Hera's like, well, yeah, and you let Jason live. It's like, because I think Zeus loves to play the game. Zeus is to want to go on and just see where this story ends. So Zeus will let's see where Jason goes. Like even if it goes on to Jason's own end, like Zeus is just like, okay, like I'll get my popcorn out and I'll just see if Jason um just takes his own uh uh takes himself out, uh and I'll just enjoy it along the way. So I think there's a moment where like Zeus and Hera are like looking at one another, and they're realizing that this could be like the weakness of them, the gods, that they're going on and relying on the humans, and that almost makes them as human as the humans are, um, because they so it's like a weird meta kind of thing going on there. So we come to find out that Jason and his men weren't the only ship to try to make their way through the same location. Because we'd find Medea and her men were trying to make their same way through this path, but their ship got destroyed through all the rocks and rubble and whatever. We'd find out that Medea is making her way back to her kingdom anyways, and so that's the reason why she made this journey. Uh, and so Jason jumps in the water and saves Medea, bringing her back onto his ship, offering her drink, and so Jason is going on and asking Medea, it's like, well, hey, like, uh, when did you set sail? And she's like, oh, this morning. Uh, and she assumed that her journey was going to be nearly over. Okay. Um, uh, Jason goes on and asks, like, well, where she had come from, the other side of the world, and they were foolish to have also sailed without any kind of weaponry or armor or anything of any kind. Yada yada yada. So Jason goes on and asks Medea, it's like, well, why did you go on and why did you do this journey through such dangerous waters? And here's where Medea mentions that she's a priestess, and she serves at the temple of Hecate, uh, and she's a dancer. And And Jason's like, well, I've heard that they've kind of they worship some strange idols, but if anything, like what is really different than what Jason worships, and that there's the whole like skin of a ram kind of thing that they worship also. So, uh, but here's where Medea also mentions about uh, the the fleece of the ram, or the fleece of uh, the golden fleece. So so Jason is not kind of putting his cards out for Medea, uh, because he of course wants to go on and try to obtain the golden fleece without her knowing about this, or going and having her blabbing to anybody. Plus, also her being a priestess may go on and get her to have some loose lips to whoever the kingdom is, or whoever the king is. So Jason's like, okay, well, I'll help you get to where you need to go tomorrow, and asks for her name, and he gives her his. So Jason is to say that they're going to try to make it to where they need to go by nightfall, because they're going to try to get to this place very quietly and very stealthily. And so Jason is explaining to everybody that they need to be uh, fighting men, because they're going to get to a point where they're going to be going to where they're going, and they're going to face off against something. So Jason is saying that he'll take a few men as scouts to try to figure out where this golden fleece is. And here is where Acostus is to then uh, face off against Jason here, and they start fighting. Uh, okay, so Acostus goes on and says that he's going to speak his mind, and so he starts talking about what Jason's possible plan is to get to the fleece, and that men will probably die because of it. And Jason's like, well, yeah, people will probably die, maybe even you, Acostus. And Acostus is like, well, you're gonna die for that. And they start rustling, they start fighting, they whip out their swords. So as they start fighting, eventually Jason is to lose his sword, and so he grabs for this net. He grabs for what looks uh, like a stick that has these kind of like these hooks on the end, and eventually Acostus jumps into the water, and they find uh, that one of the men is also dead, who is Euphemius. So, because Euphemius was to go on and go after Acostus and jump in the water, because Jason told him, yeah, go after him, like go and chase him down. And once he did that, he went in the water and wrestled with Acostus, and Acostus killed him. So Jason turns to Medea and is like, "Oh, well, it looks like you're wounded. If anything, we'll find some flowers tomorrow, and if anything, we'll heal your wounds instead of fighting the Golden Fleece, which will just heal that wound anyways." So Medea goes on to get this flower the following day when they're on this island. So she gives him the flower and she talks about it, how it's kind of like aloe vera, but in a much more quicker process. So Medea explains to Jason that they need to follow the road to the east. And next we see that Medea is now in this like golden makeup and she's going on and she's dancing in front of this god statue, and it's like this huge lavish dance number. We have like hands in the air. There's sometimes where people are like twisting backwards, and like it's this big huge dance number that takes way too long of a time. I kind of was tempted to just kind of skip past it, but I was like, well, maybe there's gonna be some kind of story that comes from this, so I'm like, I don't know if I should probably skip it. So as Medea starts dancing, this priestess, she gets closer to the statue and has her hands raised above her head. So Medea turns to King uh, 80s. Oh, I was good. I was good about that name. Like, thank goodness. So Medea is mentioned about how their god has spoken, and Medea is to mention about how the god has spoken about Jason to the god, and or to the king. So wait. Medea has gone on to say that the god that they are to worship is to talk to her and talk to her about Jason, and this man will go on and make their way and come for the temple of Hecate, and so King King Aetus is to go on and call upon Jason and have him like, hey, yeah, you and I will go on and we'll feast, and Jason's like, well, yeah, I don't really understand. So Jason is to be welcomed. The king goes on and is to crown Jason and the Argonauts, having the title actually in the movie. So the king is to go on and ask Jason why exactly he has come to Colsus, and Jason's like, well, I've come in peace, and the king is like, well, like, you seem to have a lot of men with you, and you say that there's no threat here, and so they realize that Jason is to have come for the fleece, and is to kind of show all their cards here. And so the king is to say, it's like, well, hey, you're not going to go on and you're not going to plan to steal it, are you? Like, you're not going to get that from me. and I will never part with it. So if anything, it's the gift of the gods, and it's for the wealth and the peace of my my kingdom. So like, yeah, you're not gonna take it, and if you are to have gone on and decide to take it, like it'll just be plagues and famine that'll reach all over my kingdom. So I can't allow that to happen. That'll be the destruction of my country, and so now that like we both kind of know where we're at, like I'll leave it as like I'm not going to bother to entertain you anymore. So if anything, I'll go on and I'll treat you as a thief and I will arrest you. So they go on and they arrest Jason and they send him away. And then here walks in Acostus. And so here is where the king is to get his information. Obviously, from Acostus, is like going to be whispering sweet nothing to him. But like, yeah, Jason was trying to get to you. Haha, he was trying to get to the fleece. And so Acostus feels very justified about what he has gone on to do. And so Acostus looks right into Jason's face, like, haha, like, look what I did. So Jason walks off and is to be arrested as Medea is kind of like looking off, like, oh, Jason. So Medea late at night decides to make her way to her god shrine and eventually prays to it. And after going on and speaking to her god, Medea is to try to figure out whether she should take the side of her king, um, Aeetes, or go on and save the man, which eventually she'll confess that she loves, Jason, from uh, being condemned to death. So, but Medea realizes if she assists Jason in the help to get the fleece, she is to also be a traitor of her country and may go on and may die in the whole process of this. Which there is a point where Medea gets arrowed in the back, and we're thinking like, oh my god, Medea's gonna die. Like, how will you go on and you kill a woman in this movie? Like, that seems very awful. There's very few women in this film. But yeah, when Medea gets an arrow in the back, I'm like, oh no, don't kill her off. No, 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 no. But at that point, Jason has the golden fleece, and he's like, no, like throw the golden fleece on her. It'll have healing properties, so we'll save her. And that's what kind of like, oh, good. So like love wins overall kind of thing. So Medea here makes up her mind that either she's going to be a traitor of her country or a traitor to herself. So Medea makes her way to the prison cells, finds where Jason is to have been withholden. And so Medea goes on and starts speaking to Jason, asking Medea, it's like, well, why did you come here? Did the king send for you? And so Medea is asking Jason to give up on his quest and for Jason to sail away in peace and just to escape and to not obtain the golden fleece and of course Jason is to adamantly refuse. And so Medea is to say, it's like, well, hey, like I fear for your safety if you're trying to go on, if you're trying to get to the Golden Fleece, because here's where she mentions that she does love him. And Jason is to be like, well, yeah, I'm not going to go on and I'm not going to risk any of my men. I'll go on alone and I'll try to get the Golden Fleece myself. So Jason goes on and asks Medea to like basically free himself, but also it's like, well, hey, like we need to free the rest of my men because it's not their fault um, that they've come with me and they've decided to be part of this. So everyone gets their armor back on, and so they have somebody that is to go on and make their way to the king, letting him know uh, that there were guards that have been drugged and that they figured out that Jason is has some kind of accomplice, and that maybe even Akassis is helping Jason. There's a kind of a pondering about that. But if anything, they've realized that it is Medea. She could be the only one. So, plus also the king has gone on to see how Medea has continued to look at Jason. And so they have that assumption. So the king goes on and gets every man that he has available to rival against Jason. But eventually he'll also go on and he'll get the teeth from the Hydra to create all these skeleton threats, which they will actually be called uh, reanimated skeletons. I guess is what their name is. I guess I got most of these characters kind of good enough, right? Somewhat. If anything, wow. We're at almost 2 hours. Of course, every one of these videos have to be 2 hours in length. Even for a movie that's like an hour and 40 some odd, right? Well, we're almost a little bit past but I still got a huge, long stretch of things going on here. Okay, so the next thing we see is Akassis. Akassis is to figure out exactly where the Golden Fleece is, and he thinks that he has a good shot of getting it. We'll come to find out he'll be wrong, because eventually when Jason makes his way to the Golden Fleece, he'll find that Akassis had been grabbed by the Hydra and had been suffocated or basically just crushed to the point of him being dead or killed. So Argo and all the men get back their way onto the ship, and so as the men make their way to the ship, and they're waiting for Jason to get to the Golden Fleece, uh, there is at a point where they're going on and they're having Argus like kind of pick a certain number of men to go with him, just to see like if Jason will eventually prevail. So Jason goes on to find exactly where the Golden Fleece is, and as soon as he is to go on and almost get his hands to even touch the Golden Fleece, here's when the Hydra comes slithering out with all of its multiple heads going on and lodging at Jason here. So, and here's where we find Akassis, who's been dragged out and been killed, been slain. So, as Jason is to now be an eye shot of Hydra, or the Hydra, we have Medea that is followed behind Jason to kind of see if he is going to survive this or not. So, Jason continues on here to swing with his either sword or his axe. At some point, the the sword or the shield that he has. I apologize if I said axe. I don't know what I'm saying. So Jason at some point is to take his shield, and as he swings it, the shield gets far too heavy, so he flings it off to the side instead of like throwing it at the Hydra, because of course, like since this is to be done by claymation, there's only so much he can kind of do. Um, if anything, we're going to see a lot more claymation with Jason turning into a claymation thing, fighting off against the Hydra at some point in here, because that's just kind of how they have to work around uh, them fighting with this big, huge, massive monster. So Jason gets to a high point and starts swinging away against all these Hydra heads, and here's again where Jason gets ever so close to the Golden Fleece and is now touching it, and we have the Hydra that grabs Jason via um, this long bit of thing to wrap him around in, and so Jason to have not lobbed a single one of these heads off or anything like that. Jason is just stabbing into this uh, this snake's slithering body with his sword, trying to free himself. And then when he goes on and is successful at that, Jason then turns around and realizes that the only way that he could probably go on and attack said snake or said Hydra is by inevitably stabbing it into the chest, the chest area that's away from all these heads, and take it out that way. And eventually the Hydra falls. Medea makes her way over Akasis's body, realizing that he's all but dead. Jason's men start storming in. A little bit too late there, guys. So Jason tells the men to grab the Golden Fleece and to take it for themselves. And so they go to the Golden Fleece that is wrapped around this tree and they start taking it away. So here's where the king comes in with a bunch of his men. And the king is to go on and grab all the teeth from the Hydra and is to like have this big huge incantation where he goes on and is to mention about the children of the Hydra's teeth, the children of the night, they'll rise. And what he's really saying here is that King Idius will call upon the people who had been slain by the Hydra and will have them be resurrected to face off against Jason and the Argonauts, to be an incredible threat against them. So, because the Hydra will burst into flame and be all but bones left. So, the king goes on and tells his men, quickly grab all the teeth. So they grab onto him. So they've seemingly been fighting all night to the point to where now it's daybreak. So as Jason and his men are scrambling away from the king, we have one of the king's men that goes on and bows and arrows Medea and drops her down, shoots her in the back. And Jason turns to Argos like, hey, get the fleece, put it on her so that way we can go on and we can heal her from her injury. So the king comes with a bunch of his guards and has the dead rise, and so they do. We start to see the ground shake and start to shift, and one by one, these skeletons start to appear, a good number of them, about like five or six or roughly of them. So the king calls upon these resurrected skeletons to like destroy them, which I think I'll just call them skeletons for here on out because it'll be easier to remember that. So uh, Jason and two of his other men, of which I won't remember the name of, but will die in the process of this, will be going on and facing off against these skeletons. And so we'll find that the skeletons will, like, it'll be kind of like a 2-on-1 kind of situation. And most of the time it'll be that like the skeletons will just go on and just be the better fighter this day, and we'll take these guys out. I think some of them end up also kind of getting cornered, and that kind of what does them in also. So Jason, I think, has out of everybody kind of these really wider swings, and that's what kind of helps or assists him here. At some point, Jason goes on and is to unskull one of the skeletons. He like the skull comes flying off. So you would think out of everybody, like Jason would be probably the most tired, because he was to go on and be doing most of the heavy lifting in this film. But so, as Jason is to start to come to realize that the numbers game is stacking up against him, as the men who has tried to have fought off this skeleton or skeletons are to have gone on to have started to get killed here, Jason realizes that the only thing left for him to do is to get closer and closer to this cliff and then jump off. So as he jumps off, there's a number of skeletons that follow him, and somehow he is to survive. So shortly thereafter, this is when Zeus and Hera are talking, and this is basically when like Zeus is just like, you know what, I'm kind of tired. Like, how about we go on and how about we just kind of reset the board, and if anything, we'll give uh, this a rest, and we'll basically just have Jason go on to another venture at some point. If this movie is really successful, we'll do a sequel. Uh, 'Cause if anything, Zeus is to say that he's not quite finished with Jason, but if anything, we get an end credit scene that basically says that things are going to be finished here with both Jason and Medea that are kind of looking off to the sky, and we have an end credit scene and whatever. Like, I think it's so funny. Like, I was going on and I was talking about this movie to my mom, and like I was explaining, like, wait a minute, like they go through all of this stuff, have all these side missions, and Jason doesn't go on and complete his task of beating the king and killing him. Like, what were they thinking? And so my mom was like, was there an end credit scene? Like, is there something you missed? I'm like, you would have gone on and done that in an end credit scene. But also, like, this is a 60s movie. They wouldn't have that anyways. So it's kind of a, like, I guess the assumption here is that, like, oh yeah, it's one of those modern films that by the end of it, they'll go on and they'll show what you missed. No, that's not what they do here. I'm not quite sure if there actually was another one of these films. I don't think that. Well, it was like a made-for-TV movie that came way later. But I don't think that there was ever like a sequel to this, right? Um, yeah, there was never a. Yeah, there is only to be the. I'm sorry to kind of stretch this out here. There's only the TV miniseries that came out in the 2000s, which I'm sure I'll go on a lump with this anyways, just to kind of see if there's any attraction to that. But yeah, there's no sequel to this. There's none that exist. But if anything, I think there's going to be a lot of people who watch this like, should there have been a sequel to this movie? Justificating that, yeah, like there is some story that is kind of left in the lurch here. But anyway, I guess for this movie, they just decided like, hey man, we're gonna keep pushing the visual stuff in here, or they probably ran out of money for this movie. That's probably what happened. Um, so that's what they ended up doing was probably what they ended up doing. But I'm kind of curious. Like, I would like to know. Like, I that's why I wish we can go on and just have the choice of being able to have like commentaries from like any era, or just knowing the people who thought these movies out. Like, what were they thinking? Um, like maybe there's a newspaper clipping or something somewhere where somebody said their thoughts about the film, and then we're like, ah, like that's what they were thinking. But anyways, you know what I'm thinking? I think it's about that time for me to go on and just kind of get out of here. Um, I'm kind of still recovering from this like health issue that obviously, if you heard me coughing at some point, I'm just kind of dealing with something. Like I just have like kind of some congestion in my chest area. Uh, or something that's kind of really affecting like my overall body. So that's great. Um, because if anything, I kind of very much like I hunch over a lot, like while I'm sitting. So if anything, it's kind of just giving me a little bit more of like pain, just like in the middle here. So it's kind of going on and just kind of messing up everything for me, like breathing and all kinds of things. Um, it's just kind of making a little bit of a harder process. Uh, but if anything, like I've had this for like a number of days, so like I feel like at some point, if I just keep kind of correcting the way I sit or whatever, instead of just kind of going back to my normal posture of just kind of like having my pec kind of rest on my chest, um, I'll probably get through this a lot faster. But if anything, it's just kind of a process. Uh, It'll also very much affect my workouts because I know I probably should not go on and probably should be pushing to get back into workouts lately. So if I haven't said this already, I don't know because I've said so much at this point. Probably yeah, I probably said all of this already. Um, so it just kind of all really sucks right now because I feel like I'm always just like consistently getting hurt, consistently getting sick, and like I just feel miserable. But at least I can kind of cling on to a hopefully a good movie and kind of bounce back from all this. So, and I'm sure a lot of people probably have their thoughts about what's what an issue could be that I have. Like, oh man, heart attack and all this other stuff. Which is like, sure, like I guess probably people would have that kind of thought, but I don't know. Like, if anything, um, I always write everything off as just like, oh yeah, this is just another um, like I thought it was like at first, like I thought it was just like another like cold or sickness or kind of the common stuff that just kind of like because I had uh, pneumonia for a good long time, and so maybe I thought I was like maybe I'm getting weirdly pneumonia again because this feels like that. Uh, so yeah, I just kind of wrote it off as that. Um, but anything, I don't know. Uh, I don't know. I hope for the best for me to just try to bounce back from all this. But anyways, um, I don't know. Like I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Let's get out of here so I can save myself from sounding more stupid. I think if anything, if this review didn't turn out the best, is probably because that's why. Because I'm dealing with a lot of things on my plate. I'm very exhausted and feeling very overwhelmed right now. Um, and also just being like, yeah, like I feel that I really want to go on and I really want to get to certain things. I really want to go on and really work hard on the channel and really work hard um, on getting better in shape. And I really want to go on. I really want to push myself. And but yeah, but it's just like me getting this issue is just not at a really good time. Because of course, that's just the pattern that my life has left me. Like I just have a string of just consistent uh like I feel like I'm cursed. Like I feel like I feel like I have to have like the worst luck, but also then like there's sometimes where I get very lucky. Um, so like everything has to just kind of even out. Um, yeah, because you can't go on and win $100 in a casino lottery slot every once in a while in your life, right? You also have to go on and you also have to really find that you're horribly sick or this or that. Also, there's probably um, like a number of just kind of illnesses and stuff that's going around. So I probably just kind of caught any number of that. That's probably really what this is. Um, but I also just kind of accumulated it with like there was one workout a few days ago where I went on the treadmill and like I really like pushed myself. So it's just like, man, I'm really feeling the after effects of that. And then ever since then, like it was the downward spiral of like, yeah, I'm really feeling like shit. Like I don't know why, but I don't know. Oh well. Hopefully this will be a turnaround. Hopefully, um, I figured a way around this. Um, I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. Hopefully, I'll have a good recovery. Hopefully, I'll be able to look at this, the rear view mirror, and and hope for better days. So, thank you for watching this. Uh, hopefully, at some point, the channel turns around. Um, hopefully, I'll be able to work hard enough somehow to have this finally to become a channel that is to be successful. And hopefully, I don't hopefully I don't burn myself out in the process completely. Um, but either way, I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.